Good afternoon to all industry colleagues and members of our council. I am Arup, and on behalf of the entire TERI team, I welcome you all to today's webinar on sustainability in the supply chain. As many of you know, our council is a group of Indian business leaders working on a shared commitment to mainstream sustainability in business strategies and practices. We at TERI have set up this council to recognize and promote sustainability leadership practices. The Council for Business Sustainability serves as the interface for our research work to be connected to the corporate world. We are delighted to host a series of thought leadership webinars that will discuss and deliberate emerging trends on sustainability which Indian companies and businesses should be cognizant about. The webinar shall last for 60 minutes. The webinar is an interactive session, and all of you would have an opportunity to pose questions and queries to the speakers during the course of the webinar. You can type your questions in the dialog box available on the right-hand side corner of your screen. The speaker will answer your questions by turn. In case you are unable to hear us or view the display, please contact my colleagues. The mobile number is available on the screen. The focus of our webinar today. We at TERI, we see that an increasing number of businesses recognize the importance of sustainability as they look to create long-term shareholder value and build competitive advantage. However, for sustainability to mature into an integral part of organization structure and culture, and for organizations to reap tangible long-term benefits, businesses need to operationalize sustainability across the value chain. And how we see it is upstream, instream, and downstream. This process is undoubtedly loaded with challenges as businesses are forced to fundamentally rethink the way they operate. Sometimes the business case for doing so is not apparent, and even when it is, corporates find it difficult to get sustainability projects off the ground for the lack of right kind of knowledge and expertise. Today's webinar would provide you practitioners' perspectives on, number one, changing suppliers' mindsets by proving the sustainability business case. How do you provide value and rewards to ensure high supplier adoption? Number two, achieving suppliers' adherence to sustainability standards. How do you safeguard global competitiveness, minimize risks, and create long-term business relationships? And number three, lessons learned on what has worked and what does not. I introduce our first speaker today, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Professor Sachs is a world-renowned professor of economics, leader in sustainable development, senior UN advisor, best-selling author, and syndicated columnist whose monthly newspaper columns appear in more than 100 countries. He was twice named amongst Time's 100 most influential world leaders. Sachs served as the director of the Earth Institute from 2002 to 2016. He was appointed university professor at Columbia University in 2016 and also the professor of sustainable development and professor of health policy and management at Columbia University. He serves as the special advisor to United Nations Secretary General on Sustainable Development Goals and previously advised both UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on Sustainable Development Goals and Millennium Development Goals and the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan on the Millennium Development Goals. Prior to joining Columbia, Professor Sachs spent over 20 years as a professor at Harvard University. Professor Sachs received his BA, MA, and PhD degrees at Harvard. The world today is witnessing a paradigm shift on how the future will shape. The adoption of 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, covering economic, social development, and environmental protection, provide an opportunity for engagement and a new type of partnership to address the global challenges. Recently, Professor Jeffrey Sachs was amongst us at TERI. While he could not join us today live for this webinar, we have a video message. In his message, importantly, Professor Jeffrey Sachs emphasizes that the questions for the corporate leaders today are not whether or not sustainability adds value to their business, but how to integrate these considerations more deeply into the fabric of their organizations. We shall hear Professor Sachs' video message now.
The Sustainable Development Goals are a truly important, perhaps the most important organizing framework for business in the coming years. They express a global consensus. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals were adopted unanimously by all 193 UN member states on September 25th, 2015 to apply for the whole period to the year 2030. And they express a global consensus that we need an economy in India and in all of our countries that is not only productive, but is also socially inclusive and environmentally sustainable. And the fact that there is a global consensus on this basic concept of sustainable development, economic, social, and environmental objectives all together is an important message to business, because businesses that lead in that triple bottom line are going to be businesses that have a strategy that fits the zeitgeist, that fits the global needs, and that fits public policy in the coming years. Why did our governments adopt sustainable development? Because the economy of today, the world economy of today, does not produce sustainable development. Our economies across the world are not inclusive, inequality is very high, and of course the environmental crisis is worsening rapidly. Climate change, loss of biodiversity, air pollution, water pollution, and we're reaching a breaking point. And so the Sustainable Development Goals are not just a message, gee, these are nice things we'd like. They're an alarm bell, which is that we need a new direction in the world that produces an economy that is much fairer and environmentally sustainable. Now, given that, businesses that can align in that way, I think, will find markets, a favorable regulatory framework, a favorable reception by consumers, a favorable reception by workers and the morale of your employees, and a favorable reception by communities. Businesses that run against that say, well, that's all fine and good, the UN, but really we're going to go on making money in coal, or we're going to go on making money polluting, I believe are going to hit the wall. That this will not be acceptable in the future, to have businesses that are running against the requirements of social inclusion and environmental sustainability. To my mind, that means that business strategies should say, how can our technologies reach the poor? How can we be more inclusive? How can we be greener in account? How can we change, say, if we're an oil and gas company, to be a renewable energy company providing large-scale renewable energy to the Indian market or to the world? If we are an energy user, such as transport sector, how can we move to electric vehicles? How can we move to low carbon transport systems if you're in construction? How can we build buildings that are going to be net zero emission buildings, building solar into the design, or ventilation and air conditioning systems that are highly efficient and that enable the building not to, in effect, be a huge energy user from the grid. All of this will also be key for India's global competitiveness, because major companies that are part of TERI's Council for Business Sustainability are world brands. You have major global markets, and you will face in your foreign markets the same license to operate standards. Are you conforming with the Sustainable Development Goals? Are you a low emission system? And those that are going to find growing world markets. Those that are not are going to find the door increasingly closed. I think this is the way businesses would like to operate. I know that businesses that are providing not only private profit but social value have higher morale, feel better about themselves, have an easier time recruiting the best young talent. And so this, to my mind, is a quite natural way to go. Of course, there is an illusion. You have Donald Trump still trying to promote coal in the United States, completely against everything we know to be needed for getting climate change under control. So you see maybe the temptation, oh, I don't have to listen to these SDGs, but that to my mind is an illusion. They were adopted for the reason of need. The need is actually urgent. It's going to grow over time. How many more extreme heat waves, drought will India need to know how dangerous global warming is? How many extreme hurricanes and forest fires will the U.S. need to know that this is absolutely real? I believe that we are entering an age of sustainable development where smart businesses using smart technologies in a resource-efficient way and reaching the poor and providing social inclusion are going to be the leading businesses of the coming years. Take the SDGs to heart. It will work well for all businesses.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, articulate and inspiring as always. I'll take the opportunity to also welcome Mr. Konishi Nagy from ABB, our second speaker. Konishi heads the Global Sustainable Sourcing Program of ABB. He has worked extensively with suppliers and procurement teams to integrate labor and human rights, safety, environment, and legal compliance in the commercial process of supplier selection and evaluation. He leads implementation of ABB's Suppliers Sustainability Development Program in 17 countries across Asia, Africa, Europe, and South America. Prior to ABB, he has worked towards mainstreaming sustainability into business strategy for large corporations and harmonizing governance structures. Konishi has been extensively involved in developing and providing assurance to GRI-based sustainability reports and capacity building. He has worked with non-governmental organizations on the issues related to natural resource management. He is joining us live at this webinar. Through his presentation, he will share perspectives, learnings, and experiences from ABB. Over to Mr. Konishi Nagy.
Thanks, Arup, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar series. Now, to put today's discussion in context, it's important to understand what ABB does. Now, ABB is a technology company serving the needs of utilities, various industrial segments, transport, and infrastructure. The company has a legacy of over 125 years and is present over 100 countries. 4 business divisions within ABB, which relate to electrification products, robotics, industrial automation, power grids, and all businesses are globally number 1 or number 2 in their respective domains. In the next 15 minutes or so, I will be talking about how the procurement function is evolving, why sustainability has become an important aspect for us. Then, we will at typical challenges, and finally, talk about how ABB has integrated sustainability in its procurement activities. Additionally, procurement and supply chain have been revolving topics around topics like cost reduction, container supply, payment terms, etc. And there was hardly any focus at how the supplier is running its operations. Have all the permits, if there is any violation of the worker rights, or for that matter, how the effluents or discharge from the factory are managed. And it was business as usual. Changed drastically in the last 2 to 3 years. We are seeing a new trend where the customer is increasingly responsible for the performance of its suppliers, and not just in quality and product, but on issues that we have not focused traditionally. Issues of human rights, modern slavery, pollution from the factories, unsafe working conditions, etc. These issues are now made legal requirement by several legislations introduced across Europe, in Americas, and most recently in Australia. And to abide by these laws, we not only have to do due diligence of our suppliers, but also communicate the performance to the public officials in each of these countries. But what has triggered such a response? At the heart of it is the breaching sustainability thresholds. Impacts of environmental degradation on public health become more and more visible. We see unprecedented actions from regulatory agencies. There has been tremendous crackdown on industries in several countries. We've had a classic case last year in China, where a German automobile sector company, Schiffer, had to suffer $47 billion of losses because their key suppliers were blocked and locked down by the regulatory agencies. And we are increasingly seeing instances where the factories are being asked to stop production because of the degrading environmental quality, or sweeping actions that are taken, like disconnecting the power and water of the non-compliant units. Now, if one of my suppliers is there impacted by these actions, definitely my deliveries or my product will get affected, and I will have to face business disruption or even losses because I cannot keep my commitment up to my customers. And now impacting the customer and investor sentiment. See this as an evolving threat to their businesses. Now, media today is extremely active in highlighting such instances, and as a result of all these, industry is forced to improve its performance standards and look at areas where we never looked before. If we compare the situation earlier, when my responsibility was limited to the boundaries of my factory, today I have to expand it, and going beyond the factory gates is the new normal for which I have to ensure accountability and take the responsibility. So, responsible sourcing entail? What does it include? How do you define responsible sourcing? Now, for us at ABB, it means while we are doing our routine purchase and procurement activities, we also ensure that there is compliance to all legal requirements. And our suppliers act with integrity, and we critically examine what we buy and whom we buy from for safety, resource efficiency, material compliance, upholding human rights and labor rights, environmental protection, etc. But is it as easy listing down these points? Let's look at in very simplified terms at what a typical sourcing dilemma is. Now, you have three suppliers. The lowest cost one has got the highest sustainability risk, the middle cost one has got the medium sustainability risk, and the highest cost one has got the lowest sustainability risk. Now, which one will you choose as a customer? Some of us, it may look fairly simple that I will pick the middle cost one which has got the medium sustainability risk, or highest cost one because they have the best sustainability credentials. But then in a real life, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a career procurement guy. There are certain preconditions that you have to meet. The first one, your key performance parameter in the company is to ensure purchase is happening at the lowest price. That means you have an yearly cost reduction target, and every purchase you do, amount of cost reduction that you generate in those purchases will contribute to fulfilling your yearly target. Meet your target, your bonus or performance rating will go down. You also do not have a formal education or professional training on sustainability studies. So, engineer or a finance guy or some other commercial domain expert with very limited or zero sensitization to the discussion on sustainability, the picture becomes quite different. And to get a sense of this, try talking to the guy responsible for purchase or procurement or sourcing, whatever name we want to call it, within your organization or company. It doesn't matter if it's a non-profit or a profit or what kind of organization. And try to see what his response or what his feedback is. I can promise it's going to be an interesting discussion that you'll enjoy. Now, this scenario also reflects several challenges that we face in our day-to-day activities. First one is of perception. Sustainability is perceived as a standalone or an added activity, which was not originally part of the procurement or supply chain business. And it's something which is driven from outside and not there at the core of the business activity. Second myth is the sustainable suppliers are costly suppliers. And if I'm going to ask for it, the cost of my purchase will go up, which will negatively impact my targets. Third challenge that we face is the org structure of several organizations or companies make it extremely difficult for various departments to collaborate or work jointly, which often leads to conflicting priorities or interests and working in silos. Because of all these, we do not approach suppliers in an effective way. There is an extremely limited response from the supplier because for suppliers also all this is very new and nobody wants to change the way they are working currently. With this introduction to the status and the challenges, let's look at how we at ABB have incorporated sustainability in our procurement process without compromising the commercial competitiveness. Institutionalize sustainability in our procurement activities. It is part of our active supply chain strategy, and there is a strong policy that establishes clear expectations from our suppliers. To support the implementation of policy, we have updated our procedures that guidance of our procurement colleagues throughout the world. We take a slightly detailed view of these procedures. The first one, we have updated our routine or the normal business procurement processes to incorporate sustainability parameters at the time of qualification of a supplier, and then later measuring the performance of a supplier while he is doing business with us. So before a supplier enters the ABB world, at the time of qualification, we check whether he has certain required credentials or not. And then once he is part of our supply base, we continue to monitor their performance, and amongst various parameters, we do include sustainability parameters to see how they are performing. And then based on the combination or cumulative performance assessment, we evaluate whether we can continue working with this supplier, satisfactory performance, or we need to improve them because there are certain areas where they are lacking, or we need to stop doing business with them because probably they are, there. So in addition to the routine and updating and revising our routine business processes, we also have a special procedure for high-risk suppliers. This is a much more focused intervention called the Supplier Sustainability Development Program, under which we train our suppliers on parameters across safety, environment, labor and human rights, and various country-specific legal requirements. Now, post this training, the suppliers are audited, and this program is currently being implemented in 17 countries across the ABB world. And on a continuous basis, we annually do a risk review to identify the risk status of our suppliers vis-a-vis the countries they are located, so that we can expand the program into the new geography. Now, the key focus of SSDP, or Supplier Sustainability Development Program, is supplier improvement and not the audit. Hence, depending upon the root cause of the non-compliance, which comes out from the audit finding or the audit report, we conduct a variety of trainings, classroom sessions, factory sessions, special interactive workshops, or even joint implementation of special projects where we handhold the suppliers for successful resolution of these non-compliances or the challenges that they face. And we even document case studies to highlight supplier experience and facilitate peer-to-peer learning from them. And with our focused engagement, we have been able to successfully break the myth that sustainable suppliers are costly. We have been able to quantify and document the business benefits that have accrued to our suppliers by implementing SSDP. And some of these benefits include, both in terms of quantitative and qualitative terms, talking about quantitative, improved on-time delivery by up to 23%, reduced late delivery charges for the suppliers by up to 72%, reduced machine breakdown time for the suppliers by up to 43%, reduced excessive overtime work by up to 60%, reduced overtime related costs up to 65%, and improving the cycle time for production in certain processes by up to 100%, which is doubling the output which was coming out. These interventions have been possible because the supplier shared the understanding that we had, that sustainability is not alien to the business. Sustainability or sustainable operations are the heart and soul of a financially viable business culture. Benefits also reinforce the belief that at the heart of all unsustainable activities, there are poor business and operations planning. And the sustainable operations make good business sense. And also, it is important to note that these suppliers are not kind of captive suppliers or dedicated suppliers for ABB. They are suppliers who are operating in free market. They are free to supply to ABB or to any other company they wish to. So the adoption by suppliers and the benefits that have been accrued by suppliers demonstrates that if things are done in a disciplined and a streamlined manner, there are various financial, commercial, economic benefits rather than working in an unsustainable and a non-compliant way. So to conclude my remarks, I can say sustainability is good for procurement. So with that, Arup, I'll hand it over back to you. Thank you.
Put in a request to all colleagues who have joined us in this webinar, and remind you that you have an opportunity to pose your questions and queries to the speakers during the course. You can type your questions in the chat box available on the right-hand side top corner of your screen. We will take up the questions and the speakers would respond to them by turn at the end of the session. I now move to our third speaker today, Mr. Srinivasu Patti, the Head of Procurement South Asia of BASF. Mr. Patti, a postgraduate in commerce and qualified cost accountant with over 25 years of experience across the manufacturing industry, ranging from textiles, iron and steel, covering the areas in finance and accounts, controlling, direct and indirect procurement with special focus on large-scale project procurement. Mr. Patti has been with BSF for more than 17 years, which includes an year in Malaysia for the BSF Captive Shared Service Center, and Mr. Patti is currently responsible for the South Asia procurement with additional responsibility of procurement of indirect services for the SEA region. Patti is joining us live at this webinar, and perspectives, experiences, and learnings that BSF has had with the supply chain and sustainability issues. Over to Mr. Srinivasu Patti.
Yeah. So good evening to all the members present on the webinar, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present the sustainability topic in BSF procurement. Good and elaborative discussion on the sustainability topic by my co-speaker from ABB, Mr. Nagy. Now, chemical industry, we are, at least I can say that we are pioneers in the sustainability, and we had a long history of on the sustainability topics. So today, if you talk about the business is facing a lot of complexity in terms of the rapid development in the climatic changes, market development, and the social changes. So those is always a lot of risk to the businesses. So the only way for the businesses to kind of risk is looking at the do development in a sustainable way. So that the not only the development addresses not only the current needs of the resources, but also takes care of the future resources and needs. So it is a long-term view that is one should take it. The background, I will start with the how BSF evolved its sustainable strategy. So we talk about BSF looks into the mega trends which are affecting the chemical industry. So we see the three major factors which are going to affect the chemical industry is increasing the population. The world is going to be around 9.6 billion by 2050. Urbanization, which is increasing day by day, and we see more urbanization. More than 65% people want to live in the urban areas, and then increasing living styles, people expectations, and young generation want to use more and more automobiles. These three mega trends, together with the economies which are in the development or under development, they have their own challenges with the basic amenities, starting from the drinking water, the housing, the slums, and the sewage water, and the energy and climate change. So BSF, as being a world leader in the chemical industry, so while we framing our sustainable policy, and we have incorporated the developed economies and developing economies and underdeveloped economies, and then we evolved our sustainable. Next slide, please. What is our corporate purpose? We create chemistry for a sustainable future. So that is our corporate purpose. What does it mean to BSF? Is for us is economic success together with environment and social success. All the three are together, then only we see it is a successful for long-term business. What we want to do through our sustainability goal and through our purpose is enhance the quality of the life of the human being by using our chemistry knowledge to meet our customers and suppliers and the mass consumers by providing an efficient and environment-friendly products. Environment-friendly products and with available resources. So, meet our sustainable goals we live by our corporate goals. There are three important goals what we see. One is we see our sourcing and producing responsibly. Treat ourselves as a reliable and long-term partner in the industry. We want to connect the different minds, creative minds of the industry, and provide a solution to the best use of the resources and the market needs. This is our corporate philosophy, and we are, as a part of our sustainability, we concentrate on three important areas. One is resources and energy and climate. The second one is food and nutrition, and third one is quality of life. These are the three focus areas for BSF. Sustainability across the value chain. We have the global goals covering from our value chain, starting from the sourcing, which is suppliers, and then BSF, which is our internal, and then we see our customers, which are external. About suppliers, we see sourcing responsibly. When BSF, we want to produce safely the product and to our employees and to the environment, and in a very efficient and consumption way and optimum utilization of the available resources. Then for our customers, we want to provide sustainable products as a part of their product portfolio. So we have the global targets for our sustainability, and which are long-term targets. For the sake of time, I cover only for the suppliers today. So as a global target, we have to complete assessment of our suppliers, 70% of the portfolio to be either assessed or audited by our teams. Yeah. Our global target with respect to the suppliers. Next one, please. So in line with our corporate purpose of creating chemistry for sustainable future, in procurement we source responsibly. That is our tagline. And as Mr. Nagy, my co-speaker, has put a lot of emphasis on what a typical procurement organization does. So that is what I illustrated in the form of a triangle. All procurement guys, the fundamental, the way we look at is we want to get the right material, right quality, at the right price, and at the right time. This is the fundamental objective of any of the procurement organization. But when we say we source responsibly, we are not only limiting ourselves to these three fundamental triangles. We are adding this one with another three factors, which are our governance topic, our social and environmental. Together, we feel it is a sustainability in procurement supply chain is very important to us. This is very important because we have focus and we have goals. First is the BSF reputation, which we have to protect as a procurement organization. Second, we have to reduce the risk of our suppliers not adhering to the, not complying with the social standards. Third is we wanted to ensure our suppliers are contributing to the sustainability performance. This way, we will ensure that we have long-term partners, less risk for our business, less interruption to the production, strong supplier base with high reputation. And foremost for this entire program is with a commitment from the suppliers in the form of supplier code of conduct. This is a mandatory document. Without signing the code of conduct, no vendor can enter into BSF. Yeah, that is our first commitment. Second one is the most important is continuously training of the vendors. So it is not only qualifying them, providing a lot of support them to ensure that they will adhere to the sustainability. Yeah. So what is sustainability oriented management? That is the tools. And BSF, when we talk about a chemical organization, as a chemical industry world over, as self-evolved over a period of time and come up with a lot of voluntary rules and regulations to ensure the world is at least safeguarded from the hazards. So we have this into internal and external. Internal, we are a responsible care company. So for the interest of the responsible care is a voluntary organization in Canada by the chemical industry in 1985 and operating currently more than 67 countries. And the large chemical companies covering out of the 100, 90 chemical companies, which contributes more than 90% of the world chemical trade, is a part of this organization. And in this responsible care, the chemical industry has taken a pledge that they want to improve the environmental, health, and social and security standards of the way chemicals have been produced and used. This is the overall chemical industry commitment, and the responsible care in India, more than 200 companies are signatory to this responsible care, but only 46 companies as on date are authorized or audited by the responsible care and authorized to use this logo of the responsible care. And I'm happy to share that BSF is one of the company who has been authorized by responsible care. What do we do in responsible care? We essentially cover 11 elements of what we can say the cradle to grave. So right from the product origin till the product we source, manufacture, we distribute it till it's consumed. Everything has been taken care. How this is getting affected in the environmentally, how it is safe to handle, how efficient it is, and what is the impact, and how are you adhering to the trade controls, how are you managing the resources, both the consumption of water, power, and the waste management. So this is a core of our philosophy of internal. Then as a chemical industry, we also come out with another initiative, joint initiative. It is called Together for Sustainability, and this is around 2011. There are 6 companies who are founders of this initiative. BSF is one of the core companies which is founded this institute. And what we do is there are more than 25 companies as of now. 21 companies as of now in this program. We jointly take a collective approach in assessing our suppliers. So we have a joint phase to the suppliers. We give the common assessment. We approve them. We accredit them, and then they have the opportunity to do business with all the members of the TFS. So this is a great platform for the suppliers to get associated with the leading chemical companies. Then we also have something called assessment, which is called EcoVadis. It's a third-party service provider who does globally the online assessments for the suppliers. Depending on the risk profile of our suppliers, we adapt whether we want to do a assessment, online assessment, or we have to do a site audit and come out. This will depend on the internal risk assessment. So more than 45,000 companies are using EcoVadis as of now, and BSF is strongly using this as a part of our initiative of supplier assessments. Next slide, please. I'll say that as my co-speaker already explained, that there are challenges. So we are doing this sustainability initiative almost last decade. We started with the EHS as an initial concept, and over a period of time we moved into the sustainability concept. So based on the last decade experience, we just try to summarize what are the challenges in India we are facing. The first challenge is awareness. So awareness is the biggest challenge in India, barring very few leading chemical companies and who are pharmaceutical companies who are dealing with the international organizations. The awareness levels especially in the medium and small scale industry, is very, very low. So for them, it starts with safety, then we talk about the environment, then we talk about the society. So sustainability is a long way to go. So this is the biggest challenge what we see. Second is the resistance. It's the mindset. People say, why should I invest? For them, sustainability or EHS is a cost, not as a way of running the business and way of surviving for future. So, so there is a resistance to change. Then third is practices. I've been doing this for the past 15 years. Nothing has happened. What will happen now? Why do I do now? So no need for me to do anything. Yeah. So this is another attitude. Fourth is finding out some excuse. This is very confidential process, proprietary knowledge. I cannot share with you. Under these business circumstances, I can share only little information. So overall, what we see in the market is in the last 7 years, slowly the things are changing as the governments are changing. Emphasis of the governments are also bringing, regulatories are becoming more and more stringent, and international environment is fast changing. So India is also changing. We see at least there is a great amount of awareness at this point of time among the people, but at least on the EHS front, but not to the extent of sustainability front. Yeah. So with how BSF, so many challenges, how are we coping up with this? So we come with this the sustainability mindset. Yeah. The BSF way of handling the challenges in the market. Here, the Gautam Buddha, what we think, all that we arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So what is important is mindset. So the mindset, sustainability mindset, we undertake a lot of programs. The first is awareness program. So here we do a risk assessment for the supplier. Then we do the site visits. Then we share them the potential hazards and potential dangers the organization if not implemented. And we also share the success stories. Yeah. So this kind of awareness we create. Then we do something called as trainings, which are in different ways we do it. One, we call as them in the small groups and they create a brainstorming sessions among the vendors. Then we create large scale audience. Then we ask them to participate in various BSF events. This is where we inculcate the habit of sustainability among our vendors. Most important thing is support or the mentoring program. So this is very, very important in BSF. We just do not share the audit report with and say that you have to just follow this. No. We understand the industry, we understand the challenges they are facing, especially the medium and small scale segment. So we come out with some solutions which are cost effective with extensive global presence. We bring the global expertise and talent to support our vendors in bringing the best practices and in a cost effective manner how they can achieve the sustainability. So, and those vendors who are able to associate with our programs, we give them preferred treatment by way of additional business allocation, by way of appreciating them, by giving stars to them and promoting them in the events. So this is where BSF, trying to develop the mindset by changing the mindset of the vendors. Next one. I would like to share one of our experiences, and one is the success. This is a company called Vinati Organics Limited, who has been with the BSF for the past 8 years, has been audited by BSF, and he got a yellow. Yellow means there is a scope for further improvement. And the vendor has associated with the BSF, he realizes the benefits and then continuously engaged with the BSF, and together we achieved in 2016 a green rating for him. Not only green rating, he's also got a very star for his excellent performance. So when we did a TFS seminar, which is covering a large number of suppliers in Mumbai, so this case was published as a best practice, and in his vendor own words, he brought two important elements. By associating with the BSF in this initiative, he derived additional business. Second and most important thing is, he feels in his organization, with the better EHS, the human relationship, employee motivation and morale has increased a lot. Employees feel that they are much more safer now to operate inside the plant because of the various measures and initiatives taken along the value chain. So it's in a business standard and chemical industry digest. So this is really showcasing. We are showcasing this as a very successful story. Well, I have some incidents which are also worth sharing with you. Next slide, please. Chemical industry, we cannot eliminate the risk. Risk is inherent in the chemical industry. So what is most important for all of us is ourselves aware, these are my risks, and do a risk mitigation exercise. And if we cannot eliminate risk, at least mitigate the risk to the extent possible, and making aware and safe. So this is the process when some of our suppliers, when we identify this kind of risk and share with them for their betterment, for their own improvement, if they do not support BSF, then we discontinue the business. I'm extremely sorry to share two of the incidents which has recently happened where BSF has to cut the business in the past because they are not adhering to the our sustainable philosophy, and unfortunately met with a huge accident, causing the danger to the environment, to the lives of human beings and the entire plant and investment. So not here to just to say that just because not following the sustainability models or the EHS models, they are underwent into this risk, but I can say that they could have been avoided, at least the risk could have been mitigated, they could have followed the recommendations. Yeah. So the live example, because of the confidentiality reasons, we cannot inform the vendor names. So next slide, please. So of what we spoke so far, here we are talking about the sustainability is basically a long-term business relationship. We cannot see 1 year, 2 years. We should see over a long period of time. Suppliers are core to our business, and their success is our success. And they need to perform well in the sustainability. And business relationship is very, very important to BSF. As we see, sustainability is a growth opportunity for both for BSF as well as our suppliers, as well as our customers. One of the important approach BSF brings is we look at value to society. So that means we don't see what is we contribute to the GDP in the form of taxes and revenue, but also we see what is that human capital or the health and safety and air emission and the water emission and water consumption, resources consumption as a value to the society. And we constantly engage worldwide, and we are member of several initiatives to see that sustainability in the chemical industry is pioneered and supported by BSF. So the last slide from my slide. So just sustainability as a culture. So we develop the sustainability within yourself, your family, and try to form sustainability as a seed in your kids. So the once your family changes, then the society changes, the country changes, and the world changes. So for the better future, we all should adopt the sustainability. There is no businesses can survive in currently or in future without adopting the sustainability.
Thank you, Mr. Patti, and thank you, Mr. Nagy. I'm sure this has been insightful with with practitioners' perspectives coming from two colleagues who have been long time in this in engaging the supply chain and sustainability issues. Colleagues, we clearly see from the video and the presentations the importance and the business benefits of integrating sustainability considerations more deeply into the fabric of your organization and your supply chain. I already see a lot of questions from the participants. We shall take up each one now, and I'm sure this is the FIFA season, and colleagues would give us some extra time to take up the questions that we have already received. In case you have still not sent us your questions, please type it on your chat box now. I'll start with a question that has come for Mr. Nagy. Mr. Nagy, you had talked about ABB's Supplier Sustainability Development Program. We have two questions pertaining to ABB's SSDP. Question number one: what are the environmental considerations that you see in the SSDP? And number two, how do you handle conflict minerals and scarce resources while you are implementing the SSDP? Mr. Nagy.
Sure. Thanks, Arup. So first of all, environment is one of the very important sections in our supplier sustainability development programs, and the focus when we reach out to a supplier is to ensure whether they have or look at whether they have appropriate systems, processes, and capabilities within their organizations to integrate environmental management into their operations. So what we essentially look at are areas like whether they have an environmental policy, have they done an environmental risk assessment for their operations, for their facility, factory, whatever they are operating in, whether they have trained manpower to take care of environmental risks arising out of their operations, whether they have all kinds of legal licenses and permits which are expected from them in whichever geography they are operating, whether they have been complying to all the terms and conditions and the thresholds mentioned in these legal requirements and licenses, what kind of waste management practices they've been following, and whether the waste management regulations in that particular geography are being followed or not with respect to various returns, various challans, various reports that need to be maintained and dispatched to the public agencies. And apart from that, we also look at what kind of environmental incidents have they had, and what kind of continuous improvement process that they have in place to improve their performance going forward in the future. So these are some of the environmental considerations that we include when we evaluate our suppliers' performance. The second part on conflict minerals. So because conflict minerals is such an elaborate topic, it is not part of SSDP. The ABB has a separate program which is dedicated to the topic of conflict minerals, and we have a project management unit which consists of representatives from all the business units across the world. And we, that project unit on an annual basis follows a cycle of program wherein they identify the applicable suppliers, they conduct the product applicability assessments, and then they do the supplier evaluations, and finally conclude the findings. So in case if you are interested in knowing more about the conflict minerals initiative of ABB, please feel free to visit the website, which is abb.com. And when you go to the supplying section, you will find a lot of public information which is available about conflict minerals as well as SSDP.
Thank you, Mr. Nagy. One more question that we have received is what is the score matrix and the weightages that ABB does when it evaluates suppliers, and part B is how do you measure the impact, both quantitative benefits and qualitative benefits, actually what ABB has realized from supply chain sustainability initiatives.
So on the weightage point, I mean, what we've done is we've looked at our supplier code of conduct, and from that we have extracted 42 parameters across these different categories, including general management, labor issues, safety, environment, etc. And each of these 42 parameters have been assigned different weightages depending upon the issue that they cover. So for example, an issue which talks about or covers the child labor is much more in weightage or is much more stringent than something which talks about having a written procedure or a written job description for someone who's responsible for occupational health and safety or the environmental management within the organization. So depending upon the issue which is being addressed, we assign weightages to each of these parameters, and these weightages are not like 5%, 10%. We classify them as critical, serious, and minor. So it's a broad generic classification which helps us identify which are the issues wherein we need to act immediately, and what are the issues where the supplier can take an action after completing certain other actions which are before that. So that's about the weightage that we assign, and it is part of the internal project document, because the program of SSDP is backed by extensive documentation within the organization. There is an approved procedure. There are guidances which kind of define the process for assigning the weightage scoring, how the assessments happen. So it is part of the overall family of documents which kind of lay the foundation of the program. Now, in terms of the benefits that we capture or we identify, so first of all, I mean, it's not a benefit-driven program for ABB. We do it because we believe it's the right thing to do, and we do it because there is an extremely high amount of risk that we face if any of our suppliers kind of err or falter in this, both reputation-wise and business-wise. So from our perspective, the driver for this is not a benefit that we are doing. But when we engage with the suppliers, when we talk to them on specific issues sitting in their factory, it does occur to us and it does strike us that they look at it from the perspective whether there is a benefit of doing these things or not. So in order to identify or kind of satisfy their questions and satisfy their queries, we kind of have picked up case studies through these years and documented them, and these case studies are shared with the suppliers to kind of showcase there is a business element, there is a business benefit, and not just it's the right thing to do, keep your hand on the heart and say yes, I believe, that's why I do. I mean, beyond all that, if you purely look at it from cost, investment and benefit perspective, if you invest in sustainability, you will definitely have a very positive financial return, and that the return on these investments has not been like in the long term, maybe 10-15 years, but has been relatively short term, within a year or maybe 2 years, that all these investments and activities have kind of given back to the suppliers. So all the quantitative benefits which I shared during the discussions have been extracted by our suppliers, typically in around 9 to 12 months or 13 months of our engagement. So we do not look at it actively, but yes, we do on a periodic basis try to identify which are the case studies where we can quantify and communicate the benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Nagy. We have a question, addressed to both Mr. Patti and Mr. Nagy. Mr. Patti, you talked about the sustainability mindset which BSF propagates and inculcates. We have a question asking, how do you ensure sustainable supply systems are built efficiently from the very beginning and from the product design phase? If I may ask Mr. Patti to come in first and then Mr. Nagy. Mr. Patti.
My understanding from this question is relating to the BSF. How do we build the product in a sustainable manner? Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So when we talk about the responsible care company, so one of the topics we talked about is the product stewardship. So product stewardship talks about the origin of the product. When we are in the development, very early development stage, we see how this product has to be produced, what are the resources getting consumed, what kind of process we need to do, how safe it is to the environment. Finally, when this product is disposed, how it is safe to the environment. So the entire life cycle of the product has been studied at right from the sourcing, production, distribution, and customer and end product. So then we launch this. So this comes under our product stewardship.
Mr. Nagy?
Sure. So, I mean, it is something which typically our research and development or engineering teams are involved in. And while they are researching or developing the products, I mean, improving the existing ones or developing a new product, they do include the impact of the product on the environment, both during the production stage, during the use phase, and at the disposal stage. So these considerations are part of the criteria with which these teams work.
Thank you, Mr. Nagy. We have more and more questions coming in. One more which is both directed to both speakers. Mr. Patti, you talked about EcoVadis and how over 45,000 BSF suppliers are using this. A question is, are there other scientifically based organizations that endorse and have audit capabilities in this space? First, Mr. Patti, then Mr. Nagy.
A small correction: the 45,000 is the number of companies associated with this organization EcoVadis, and it is BSF as globally has taken EcoVadis as a third-party assessment agency for all our assessments because of its wide reach and presence in many countries. And we have found that the reports coming from the EcoVadis is quite useful, and it will be very useful for our suppliers also to enhance their knowledge. One big thing is in BSF, we are not limiting the assessment only to the direct procurement. Our assessment goes right from the direct procurement, indirect procurement, including the OEMs, traders, and dealers and distributors, and logistics service providers. So we cover a whole range of the people, including the service providers, even the contractors.
Patti, Mr. Nagy, your recommendations for other scientifically based organizations that ABB might be working with?
Sure. So work with several of these agencies, these third-party audit companies who are active in this domain. And typically, we associate with them on a local basis. So every country where we are implementing the project, they will identify a local partner, and we will kind of engage with them to conduct these supplier assessments in conjunction with the ABB teams. So what we've done is, in addition to having these third-party agencies, we also have our own colleagues who are part of procurement function. We have kind of developed an internal auditor certification program for them, which is accredited by a third-party agency. It is 8 to 12 months long program with 4 modules. Each module is qualification based, and they have to complete 2 classroom based modules, 2 factory based modules before they can actually qualify for doing these audits. So if you look at ABB, yes, we partner with a lot of third-party agencies depending upon their competencies and capabilities. Plus, we have also developed and internalized these capabilities within our own colleagues, so that whenever we are going to a supplier, we are looking at them from an eye on sustainability, whether there is an area of improvement or not. So we use a combination of internal and external team members who go for these reviews and trainings.
I know, colleagues, you have allowed us, and you have accommodated the extra time, but I'm getting yellow cards constantly from colleagues here that we are running out of time, and we shall take the last question from the audience for today's webinar, and that is directed to Mr. Patti. Mr. Patti, a question comes in for you saying BSF sets standards for conducting risk assessments and improving supplier sustainability. Do you think that elements of a decentralized, inclusive model of supplier program, like collective standard setting, might benefit your initiative better than the current credibility-based model of improving supplier behavior? Mr. Patti.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, because I'm not able to grasp what exactly it means.
Yeah, it is asking that do you think that elements of a decentralized, inclusive model of supplier program, like collective standard setting, might benefit BSF's existing initiatives of conducting risk assessment and improving supplier sustainability?
Okay, so we have not gone for a decentralized model. Today, we want to evaluate our suppliers on a global scale, because today the suppliers are partnering with not only with the BSF local organizations, because in many occasions we also partner with many of the other BSF global organizations. So we wanted to set a benchmark in terms of the suppliers. Wherever they are operating, they will all undergo to a common parameter rather than a country-specific parameters. Okay. However, we have certain elements for this decentralization in terms of the country-specific risk, product-specific risk. So, depending on the country, they have certain weightages which is always adjustable because of the developed market, developing economy, and underdeveloped. So, those are inbuilt into our model. But per se, I say the overall parameters of our evaluation is same for everyone, because he will be the BSF global supplier, not only for the local. So essentially it covers management, environment, health and safety, labor and human rights, and governance. So this, especially for the countries like India, where social labor standards are very a big topic to be discussed. So this gets additional weightage when we are evaluating the vendors from India. So I address.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Patti. On behalf of all our council members, I'd like to thank Professor Jeffrey Sachs, Mr. Konishi Nagy, and Mr. Srinivasulu Patti for their insightful comments and patiently addressing the questions that we received from the audience. And thank you all you participants for such an engaging discussion. We ran over time, but I'm sure you have thoroughly enjoyed, like us and the speakers. We sincerely regret that we could not take any more questions from the participants that came to us at a later stage, but we'll make these questions available to the speakers, and you could get in touch with the speakers. We'll provide an email ID of these speakers for you. The recorded version of this webinar And PDF files of the presentations would be made available on the TERI CBS website. Likewise, will be the recorded version of the earlier webinars will be also shared through our website. Please expect a communication from us to reach all the registered participants of this webinar by early next week. Before we part ways, I'd like to request to draw your attention to our annual engagement plan with our member companies. If you have not received a copy as yet, please visit our website or write to either me or my senior director, Mr. Puneet Chandra. The email IDs are on the screen. We shall soon announce the dates for the meeting of our Chief Sustainability Officers Forum to happen in the month of September in Delhi. And likewise, the first meeting of our Directors Forum on Sustainability, chaired by Mr. Ashok Chawla, Chairman of TERI, will reach you shortly, which is also getting scheduled in the month of September in Mumbai. Reach out to all of you, all the member companies, for nominations from your organizations. Also, watch out for the first knowledge report for this financial year from the Council on Sustainability Supertrends 2018. The report bears a message from Mr. R. Mukundan, Managing Director of Tata Chemicals and Co-Chair of the TERI Council for Business Sustainability, and Mr. Ajay Shankar, former Secretary, Department of Industrial Promotion and Policy, Government of India, and currently a Distinguished Fellow in TERI. We shall soon announce the dates for our next Thought Leadership webinar on the topic Natural Capital Accounting Principles for the Corporate Sector, and an interactive session with the authors of the Better Business, Better World report. The Council for Business Sustainability serves as the interface for our research work to be connected to the corporate world and enables a two-way communication and engagement process. TERI CBS engages with the core issue of what businesses must do to shape and lead in sustainability. For regular updates, our annual plan of engagements and customized plan for engagement with us, please visit our website cbs.terien.org or write to us at businesscouncil@teri.res.in. Thank you, colleagues, for your presence with us today. We hope you enjoyed the sessions, and we intend to bring similar engaging sessions for you. I'm signing off and look forward to your participation in our upcoming engagements. Thank you, and bye-bye.